No better way to start off a YouTube video than with a Mountain Dew Baja Blast from Taco Bell. This ain't even a product placement or whatever. I just freaking love Baja Blast, man. What is going on, everybody? My name is NGS, and thank you so much for clicking on the video. Today, I'm going to be talking your heads off about the latest video game franchise brought to the silver screen. We're going to be talking nothing but Warcraft. Now, 2016 is an interesting year for movies, to say the least. Especially if you're a fan of movies based on nerd culture. I've heard nerd culture thrown around in a ton of articles out there to discuss the huge influx of films based off things that 10 years ago people thought were just for nerds. I guess. I don't know. It sounds like a pretty pleb statement, something you'd see off the Big Bang Theory. Ugh. But yeah, 2016 brings us the start of Phase 3 for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. DC is making strides with their extended universe. And Fox, of course, is just doing their own thing over there in the corner, doing their best. They're like Venusaur in the Pokemon intro. You know how you have Charizard, just blowing fire, and then Blastoise is just pumping out water. Venusaur is just there. Maybe he's charging up Solar Beam. I don't know. The world will never know, but we gotta assume he's doing his best. This year in particular, we have a ton of video game movies. A couple of weeks ago, we had Ratchet & Clank, and closing off the year, we have Assassin's Creed from Michael Fassbender. Sandwiched somewhere in between for the summer season, we have Warcraft, directed by Duncan Jones. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking. Will this movie be the one? Will this be the film that breaks the fabled Hollywood video game movie curse? I remember growing up, video game movies used to be a dime a dozen. It'd be a rarity to see a video game movie done. But once the comic book movie boom happened in like the late 90s to early 2000s, a lot of companies started seeing that, hey, this stuff could sell. So let's make some video game movies. And there were some successful ones like Lara Croft, and some really bad ones that we're not going to talk about. And then they just kind of tapered off and disappeared for a while. But I remember back in 2010, we had when the Prince of Persia movie was getting ready to come out. Game Informer did a spread where they had, at the very minimum, 24 video game franchises that were lined up for potential Hollywood adaptations. And I'm talking about stuff like Gore Verbinski working on BioShock. Yes, that Gore Verbinski. And Avi Arad producing Metal Gear Solid. Now, thank baby Jesus that none of those got off the ground, thankfully. But it was really interesting to see that Hollywood, at a time, thought that these things were potentially viable. And I guess somewhere down the road, they realized, hey, let's just make all these and dump them out in the same year. It's like spaghetti, just see what sticks. Warcraft. Now, this is really interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, this is the movie that a lot of people are hoping is going to break the curse because it's coming from a well-renowned director. This is directed by Duncan Jones, who worked on Source Code and Moon, if I remember correctly. So it's got a fair bit of pedigree behind it. Not only that, but Blizzard is actually involved with the development of this movie. I remember back when Sam Raimi, yes, that's Sam Raimi from Evil Dead, the original Spider-Man trilogy, was attached to this movie. And it was going along pretty dang well until he left due to creative differences. So, you not only have a good director behind it, but you also have the studio working on this and making sure that it is their baby. It's their medium. It's what people who have never played the games are going to go see this movie, and this is what they're going to get. And, well, there's a lot that I can say about this film. Now, first and foremost, if you're a person who wants to get into the real nitty-gritty stuff, like talking about the spoilers and things that happen in this movie, basically anything you didn't see in a trailer, I'm going to save that for the latter part of the video. The first half of the video is going to be discussing, we're almost 5 minutes in, oh my god, is going to be discussing the film as a whole from a narrative structure, things that people who see this movie who are, interested in the filmmaking process are going to find interesting. And then all the spoiler stuff we're going to save till later. So if you're interested in this movie, listen up. So Warcraft, like I said, is based off of the, immensely popular long-running Warcraft series, which has spanned numerous games. And of course, I know I'm going to see this thrown around here and there. It's a World of Warcraft movie. It's not a World of Warcraft movie. I know a lot of people are going to think that it's not a World of Warcraft movie. It's based off the Warcraft lore. And the only reason that I know this is because one of my best friends, Gabe, is a huge Warcraft buff. And he was talking to me about some of the things that were going on with the development of this film. So I'm going into this movie looking at it as a person who knows jack shit about Warcraft. I don't know anything outside of just basic character names and some of the really cool images I've seen online. And how does it stack up? Well, from a film, it's serviceable. This is a serviceable movie. Now, a lot of people are going to look at what I'm saying and deem that as, oh my god, you're trashing the movie, you hate this movie. Likewise, a lot of people are going to see that as, oh my god, you're damage control for this movie because you like video games and you're a part of the alt conspiracy who's trying to hype up every single video game movie that is out there because you're secretly paid off by these companies and Ratchet & Clank wasn't a good movie, you were just paid off by Sony because you like the movie. You know, just stupid-ish. What do I mean by serviceable? What I mean by serviceable is that this was a decent movie. Okay? There were things in this film that I enjoyed, that were interesting, but as a whole, it suffered from a lot of problems. First and foremost, I want to talk about some of the more positive aspects of the film. It is friggin' beautiful. This film right here is so gosh darn pretty. And what I mean by pretty is that if you were watching the trailers for this film and you were just, you know, for lack of a better term, to coin the Lonely Island song, jizz in my pants. If you saw some of the stuff that was in that trailer and you're like, oh my god, this looks fantastic, be ready to get friggin' floored, because this film, from a visual aspect alone, is so beautiful. It is so colorful. The color palette on this thing is just friggin' insane. Like, you can tell that the people who worked on this film understand the Warcraft lore, and they understood that in order to bring people into this world, they had to make it believable. They had to make it tangible, and it works surprisingly well. I loved the color palette that they had going on in here. If you are a fan of the looks from characters in the games, oh my god. It's literally like a spitting image. You're seeing some of the stuff in the games, and then you see what they're doing here, and it's just like, god damn. This is literally what I saw playing this as a kid. This is like what I wanted to see on the screen. Everything looks great. All the character, I was about to say character customizations, all like the armor and the character designs that you see in this film, it feels like you are in this world, which is very good. Because if you cannot replicate that, if you cannot create this level of authenticity, then you have failed to connect the viewer to this fantasy world. And it's very rare that we see an actual fantasy movie that incorporates human characters and, you know, things like orcs and mages and stuff like that. You don't really see a lot of that happening in Hollywood, and I don't know why, to be honest, because I think that's a fantastic setting. Now, in terms of some of the things that people were kind of worried about, like, for example, the visual effects in regards to the orcs, like the CGI that you would see in that. A lot of people complain that the CGI looks too cartoony. The CGI is bad. I've seen that phrase thrown out a lot. The CGI is not bad. If you saw some of the stuff in the trailer, it's just as good, except more cleaned up. At my preview event where we saw the movie, they actually showed it to us in 3D, so we got to see this movie the way it was intended to be seen. The 3D was good, but I don't really see how it was supposed to really immerse you in the experience. It just made the CGI look prettier, if that makes sense. I don't know how it does that, but it does. The CGI looks really good. The main problem is that this is like the wrong style of CGI. Like, for example, if you look at the really awesome cinematics that Blizzard does for their games, and you love those, basically take those and put it in a realistic setting. I think that's why some people think it looks too cartoony, because you're literally taking it from the video games, if you will, and just putting it in the human world, which looks pretty strange. They definitely should have gone back and, you know, changed a couple of things to make it fit the realistic style. I mean, they still could have kept it, obviously, but things look a bit too vibrant that people think it looks cartoony. That's what I have to say as far as that goes. Good CGI, it's just the wrong style, if you will. It doesn't mesh. And in terms of like the interactions with the humans and the orc, though, that actually meshes well. Like, you're seeing the conversations that they have, like that stuff works great, which is, like I said, goes back to the whole authenticity thing. If you cannot nail that, then you do not have a good immersion aspect. Now that we've settled that, there are a couple of things that I did have some problems with. First and foremost, this is probably the biggest complaint that I have in this movie. What is pacing? Is there a part of this movie that's missing? Because when they drop you in this film, it starts off pretty decent. You know, you get introduced to the orc characters and their world, and you're seeing what they're doing, and that's good on that front. But from there, you get introduced to all these human characters, and it starts literally throwing all of these things in your faces that you're kind of like, wait, whoa, slow the fuck down, man. Like, what is that? Who is that? What is this place here? Like, all these things are thrown at you, and all these names for people, and you're trying to distinguish on what's happening here and what's happening there, that it's just like, slow the heck down. Like, there's so much happening on screen at once that you're just like, you can't get attached to something. And that's like the biggest problem that it has, because all this stuff getting introduced is kind of hindering the development of the characters. Like, these are the characters that we're supposed to become attached to, and we're supposed to grow with and see their struggles, but it comes to the point where everybody's introduced at like one time, all in the span of like 4 seconds, that it's just like, what is your motivation? Why are you doing this certain thing? Like, it honestly feels to me like 20 minutes of the movie, which establishes everybody, just gets cut. Like, all the things that you would expect for these characters, it just gets cut and it's not there. Which is disappointing, because what they do in this movie, you can see that they're trying to tug on certain emotional chords, and this was supposed to go for a really emotional impact there, and over here, you were going to see what this character is going to do. But we just didn't get to grow with these characters enough for them to actually properly utilize said things. And that's disappointing. And that's the biggest problem I think the movie suffers from. The pacing is really off in the beginning of the movie, and a lot of the things that they're trying to do in this film, which I remember, if I remember correctly, it was supposed to be like a combination of Braveheart meets Lord of the Rings with some Game of Thrones-esque elements in there. They're trying to go for that level, but they haven't earned it, if that makes sense. It's like those movies, TV shows, those have earned the pedigree of when they do crazy-ish, it's built up on some stuff. With this movie, they just kind of throw it at you like spaghetti on a wall and just sees what sticks. And that's really disappointing, because later on in the film, they definitely do a lot of sequel baiting, if you will. There's a lot of universe building, there's a lot of lore that could become expanded upon in another movie. And with this pacing of the film, it builds you up to that point, and it just kind of tapers off, which is like, oh wow, that's actually kind of disappointing. You don't get to grow with these characters, you don't get to see their like real struggles without it just completely swapping perspectives. And the story of the film is just kind of generic. Like, you just go in there, you know, the orcs come into this world and they want to conquer it, and the humans are like, no, we got to stop it because they're taking our humans as prisoners, and we got to stop them, and we're going to fight. And that's it. It just felt like one giant mission out of a video game, which if they were going for, I guess that makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, it's entertaining, like in terms of like the battles that you see on screen. Some of that stuff is fucking dope as hell, man. There's one particular fight, which I'll talk about in the spoiler section. But some of the stuff you see on there, it's pretty it's pretty doggone. What am I talking about? I need some Baja Blast. Some of the stuff you see in this movie is doggone cool. There we go. And I loved seeing it on screen. Like, this is some stuff you don't see in a lot of movies. Like, you know, just fantasy, magical spells, stuff like that. You don't really see that in movies nowadays, which kind of sucks. So on that front, in terms of being a fantasy movie, it excels. But from a narrative perspective, like, the things that actually matter, like building these characters and growing them, it's kind of like, slow the fuck down, focus on these guys, slow the fuck down again. Did I mention slowing the fuck down? Yeah. Everything's believable. It's just, please give us time. Now let's move into some of the spoilers, because I know this is what a lot of people are looking forward to when talking about this video. Holy shit. The magic? Dude. The spells, the friggin' fights, oh my god. Like, this is some like nerdy ass geeky shit, man. That sounded really pleb to say, but that's the best way I can describe it, bro. There's so much stuff that is happening in this movie that you're just like, bro. It's literally like seeing, like I said, you're like like how you picture quests happening in your mind and not as they are on screen. Like you feel like you're in this intense fight with all these characters and seeing some of the stuff that happens. Like that stuff is really cool, and it's done very well in this movie. And it's awesome, man. It's awesome, and there's like a great sense of humor in there, and it's just really cool. Like it's just really cool to see that sort of thing. And there's one particular thing that happens with a certain oh my god, I'm trying to remember the names of these characters. I think his name is Medivh. I want to say his name is Medivh. I'm actually going to look it up right now because I cannot be asked to re-record this video again. I think his name is Medivh. What is his name? Is it Medivh? Yes, his name is Medivh. He's the guardian of the Trifosol, whatever that's called, right? There's something that happens with him. Or basically, he just gets he falls victim to the powers that be, like this huge magical. Like I said, I know little about Warcraft. I haven't seen this movie in a week and a half, so he basically falls prey to that. But it's kind of vague. Like he falls victim to it, but you don't know enough about him to actually care for him falling victim to it. And by the end of the movie, he kind of just wakes up, but there's really no indication to the fact that he woke up. Like he has feelings, but we haven't grown with him to experience those feelings. It's weird, man. And another thing that was kind of weird is that while they nailed the orcs, I felt like there needed to be some subtitles every now and then because I can understand what they're saying, but it just felt too goggly. You know what I'm saying? Like, please translate for me. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I'm just going down the list of some of these characters. The one chick, Garona, she's the female orc survivor that you see in the movie. Yeah, this is the weird part. Like, all the orcs look like orcs, but for her, literally take Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy and just put, like, Halloween teeth on her. That's basically what it is. Like, she didn't look really convincing whatsoever. And it's just kind of bad because everybody else in this movie does. And then you just see this one chick. I don't know if she's just a designated hot chick in the movie, but it did not look very convincing. But other than that, like there's a lot of cool stuff in this movie. Like a lot of cool things visually that are awesome. And there's a lot of universe building. But other than that, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just... It feels to me like 20 minutes of this movie that could have been spent on development was cut. And from what I'm looking at, the budget of this movie, I don't know if I said it earlier if it was 100 million or not, but the budget of this film is 160 million. You know, it definitely used up that budget. Definitely did. Like, for what they were doing, it just looks beautiful. But I don't know what happened with this script, man. It felt to me like... I don't know, man. It literally just felt to me like they built the story around the set pieces. Maybe that's the main problem. Maybe it's because they were trying to tell this grand story, but they needed to make sure to have a fight here and then have a fight there and a dramatic moment here instead of actually building up all these characters and making this feel 100% legit and it can, you know, just go on its legs. Going back to what I mentioned earlier, though, with how the movie kind of feels like they're sequel baiting. By the end of the film, you're wanting a Warcraft 2. And what I mean by that is the stuff that they do in this end of the movie, it's literally... I'm trying to find a good example of this. Okay. This is going to sound weird, but bear with me. Basically, think of it as this. Like, if Tony Stark, in the first Avengers movie, when he went into that portal, right? And he saw the impending doom, right? Imagine, like, all the biggest bad guys of the cosmic Marvel Cinematic Universe was there, and you saw all that stuff, and you're just like, holy shit. And then you saw the Thanos end credit, and you're like, yo, it's about to happen. That's how I felt at the end of this movie, because war is coming. And everybody's getting prepared for that, and you're just like, bro, I want to see this. But at the same time, you feel like they haven't earned the right to do that because these characters really aren't there, you know? You wanted to grow with these guys and then get to that point. But now it's just like, I want to see it because of how pretty it'll look. And that's the depressing part. Like, I don't really care about any of these characters, which sucks, man. It really sucks. Because they got some pretty good actors in here. Oh, well. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was my rambling review, I guess, of Warcraft. Let me know what you guys thought about it when you do see the movie. It's not set to come out for another, let's see, today is the 24th, so we have another week, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, yeah. And for those wondering how I saw the movie, shout out to my boy Tyrell for hooking me up with tickets to the movie. I saw an early screening at NYC about a week and a half ago. So being under embargo for, like I said, a week and a half was really tense because I know a lot of people were wondering what I thought about this. But now you do, in its 21-minute rambling glory. Yay. From me for now, I'm a GS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.